Hey, what is up, everybody? This is your boy AJTRIP, and welcome to That to Shoot. A day late, but with all due respect, me doing something with my mother, so hope you guys can respect that. Yes, push, no, push, yeah, this is That to Shoot, my weekly episode show. We're talking about what's going on in the world of professional wrestling, and boy, the last 2 weeks have been something very interesting. So I've got four topics to go into and to dive into and to talk about. Um, yeah, and I haven't done something like this in a long time. Usually it's just one topic or something like that. But I've got some other stuff going on. And as you can also see on the title, this is my 199th episode of That's a Shoot. 200th episode, anything special? Not really. NXT Battleground predictions episode. Make sure that's going to happen next week. And 201 is a Clash the Castle predictions episode. So the next couple of weeks, predictions for NXT Battleground Clash the Castle. So this week is a perfect week to go into talking about each and everything that I want to talk about. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Let's talk about Jey Uso. So, I am a regular listener to the Jim Cornette podcast, both the drive through and the experience. Um, and over the several months, um, since Jey Uso's been on his own, it's almost like it's been like 8 months since 8 9 months since that happened. Um, he's had some criticisms over Jey Uso. He talked about him being maybe a little bit too hot dogging in the ring. The work isn't as crisp as he'd like to see. He talked about the open hand slaps and punches that he does. Um, Things like that, doing the Rock stuff with the spit in the hand, doing the Roman stuff with the spear. I mean, not so good. But, Jim's very, very critical when it comes to wrestling. So he's a very critical eye. He just doesn't forgive a lot of things. In the ring. But over the last month or so, there's been an underswelling on the internet about Jey Uso. Kind of saying the same thing. Well, Jey Uso's immensely over, but he can't. He doesn't really have it in the ring. But Jey Uso is the biggest star in the world until until he gets in the ring. Jey Uso enters. That's amazing. Working the ring, maybe it isn't. So then that kind of brings me to the question. One of the questions that I have for this episode of That Shoot is Jey Uso the guy? Now, what you want to say is, what do you mean by that? Is he the guy that no? That's still Roman Reigns, even though Roman is out. That's still Cody Rhodes. He's the World Heavyweight Champion. Jey Uso's never going to be the guy in that situation. But as for the guy, the number one, yes, he was the number one selection of Monday Night Raw in the draft pick, and in the draft. So is he the guy on Raw? Well, you think about it, there's CM Punk, who's you know he's got some stuff going on there, but CM Punk is injured right now, and he's not, and he can't. He can talk, he can't go in the ring. He hasn't been on television for the last few weeks. So then there's that. Um, Sami Zayn, while Sami Zayn is, at some points in time have been immensely over, um, and he's a very great character to root for in an underdog role. I don't know if he's the guy either, right? And then you talk about the heels, and you have Gunther and Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. Well, yeah, they can be the guys, you know. But the guys for the on the heel side, you need a baby face to work the heel. So it's almost been by default that Jey Uso would be the guy. But then let's talk about his actual work. Does that matter? But first of all, let me say this. I don't think Jey Uso's a bad worker at all. I think Jey Uso was part of one of the great tag matches in WrestleMania history, the main event of Night 1, WrestleMania 39. He's had some tremendous bouts over his, with him and Jimmy over his, you know, reign as the longest tag team champions of all time. Matches with Street Profits, matches with the New Day, matches with the Mysterios, you know, going years back, the Usos and the New Day inside Hell in a Cell. That was amazing. I believe I gave that 5 stars. Um, it was it's tremendous. I think he's I think he can go in the ring. Maybe he has a little bit of that John Cena type thing where he can raise his level to go with the Gunther's of the world and to go with the Codys of the world. But maybe he can't take somebody like I'm trying to think. Maybe he can't take somebody like um they don't even have a lot of people like that anymore. Where but he can't take somebody who was below him and lift him up to his level. Maybe he can't do that. But I still think he's a good enough worker. I don't agree with the underswelling of saying that he can't work, he can't go in the ring, and I disagree a little bit with Jim when it comes to like some of the other stuff. I don't mind him stealing from Roman and Raw, and I don't mind the open hand slaps. I do think that maybe he could get a little bit tighter with his work, because the showboating and everything like that could be a hindrance to a point, but that's what has made Jey Uso. So you have to say that. And listen, you can't count. He is tremendously over. The entrance in France is amazing, and he gave him the flyer fries. And he talked about how now that Bray Wyatt is with him, and he now has the flyer fries. So we talk about that, and he's just tremendous. He's just tremendously over, and one of the most over people in wrestling today. Not just WWE in wrestling today. So so I'm cool with that. But however, I did want to put this out here. If there is an underswelling of, maybe Jey Uso can't work to some people. Maybe if there is an underswelling of, and I saw this a couple of weeks ago. Someone said he was being pushed down our throats. Really? It's one thing to say John is being pushed down your throats. It's one thing to say Roman Reigns is being pushed down your throats because they're getting 50-50 or even more negative reactions than positive reactions. Jey Uso is again one of the most over people in wrestling. He's not being pushed down our throats. He's just being pushed. Ridiculous. But but as I talked about it, one of the most over people in wrestling. Could he be the world champion? Now, we have all these things happening. The Cash Clash with Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. Gunther has just won an opportunity to win the championship, to have a championship match at SummerSlam, because whoever the world champion is. So is there room for Jey Uso, especially when what I think is going to happen with the bloodline, and I have to talk about what I see for the bloodline, how I would do the bloodline maybe in a couple of weeks after everything like that. So and the thing is quiet down, although with so many people being, so many things happening in this world, who knows if it's going to quiet down in a few weeks. But how I see the bloodline situation hanging out, Jey Uso being the world champion may not be needed for that type of situation, right? I still see him being a part of that. So, what do you do with Jey Uso? How do you do it? Right? And how does everything go down? And if there is like if there is this underswelling if he can't work and he's being pushed, and there could be some backlash against Jey Uso, well then do you need to take advantage of that very quickly, you know, and put the title on him and have him as going back to Cornette. Cornette once said about Psycho Sid, he could steal you a couple houses, but he wasn't going to draw you, a lot of money. Maybe do you want to, and maybe you want to say this, you want to steal you a couple of houses. No, with excuse me, with Jey Uso as your world champion before you need to go into another direction. That's the thing. So is Jey Uso the guy? To me, I think he is. I think he is. I think he's the guy. I'm not sure how he fits into the title picture. I'm not sure how he fits into a lot of the pictures going into Raw in the future. But we will see. I think he's the guy of Raw. And we'll also have to take a quick look. We may come back to this at some point if there is starting to be a negative reaction to Jey Uso, and in particular his in-ring work or things like that. So we'll definitely take a look at that. But yeah, I think Jey Uso is definitely at least the guy on Raw, at least until CM Punk can come back, and be a more consistent part of Monday Night Raw. So it was announced last week or 10 days or so ago. Within the last couple of weeks, it was announced that the 2026 SummerSlam will be a 2-night SummerSlam emanating from the First Bank Center or whatever it's called, the building in Minnesota where the Vikings play. And this seems to be a makeup for what was going to be seemingly WrestleMania. Apparently, there was a lot of rumors about Minnesota getting WrestleMania in 2020 and 2025, and then it is switched up, and it's now going to be Las Vegas getting WrestleMania in 2025. So there's some rumors that this is a makeup for that, taking away WrestleMania, giving them SummerSlam, and then giving them 2 nights of it. We don't know if this is going to be a start of 2-night SummerSlams in the future, or if this is just a 1-night thing to make up for, taking away WrestleMania from them. Here's my thing, right? People, if you guys know me, you watch the channel a lot, you know me, and things like that. I'm not a fan of the 2-night WrestleMania. I'm not. But there are many people out there, they like the 2-night WrestleMania because they weren't fans of the 7-8 hour spectacle of WrestleMania, going from the kickoff show to things like that. And I guess WrestleMania 35 for a lot of people was like that was the thing where they got there in New York for the kickoff show, and it went all the way into midnight, and they got there at 4, and it went past midnight, and then it started to rain, and I guess there was a lot of traffic, couldn't get trains and Ubers and everything like that. So it was just a mess at the WrestleMania 35, and that's when a lot of people were like, "Nah, we can't be doing this, right? We really can't be. We can't have this long WrestleMania." And then pandemic happened. They went to 2 nights because of the pandemic, and it has stayed ever since. It looks to be staying in the future. I'm not going to get my wish. However, just for people who maybe are new here, or which is the first time watching me, my opinion on WrestleMania is that, and my opinion for many of them, and I may talk about that again in the future, but my opinion is that, it's okay if everybody doesn't make the card. It's okay if everybody doesn't make the card, right? Let's talk about next year, Las Vegas, right? So if this was one night, this is how I would do it, right? This is how I would do it for one night. It would start um on the East Coast. It would start at 5. It would start at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. local time in Vegas. And we would have a 2-hour kickoff show like we've always had with. I mean, and that seems to be they're not calling it the countdown show because now they're calling it the kickoff show like the press conference type thing, but they're calling it the countdown show, kickoff show, whatever you want to call it, kickoff show. What I would do for the kickoff show is the first hour I would go through, run down the cover, do everything the normal stuff you do. In the second hour, I would have matches. Really, I would bring back the women's battle royal, and I would have the men's battle royal, as they did for WrestleMania 35. They were doing it for WrestleMania 35. They did it for WrestleMania 34 as well. I don't know if they did it for WrestleMania 33. I don't think they did. No, they did. It was WrestleMania 34 was the first women's one because that was in New Orleans, and then that's what they did for WrestleMania 35. But that's what I would do. I would just and I would have that on there. So then that's 2 matches, right? 2 matches, and then as we start at 7 Eastern, 6 Central, 5 local time in Las Vegas, I would have a show of 8. I would have a show to 8 matches, 9 matches at the most, 8 matches. So at that point, if you do a 4-hour show where it goes from 7 Eastern to 11 Eastern, 6 Central to 10 Central, local time, that'll be 5 to 9, right? You do a show, 4-hour a tight 4-hour show. Tight 4-hour show. You could get, I think, you could get 8 to 9 matches on the card, special matches, right? And this is also well because this now I think one of the things that happens is that this is also I think one of the reasons why I would do this is also because of the championships. Right now we're talking about 8 to 9 matches. We have 8 to 9 champions. We have 2 women's champions, right? We have 2 men's champions. That's 4. We have 2 tag champions. That's 6. And we have and we have 2 secondary championships. That's 8. That's 8 right there. So and that's 8. So but in my situation, the men, the tags, the women's champion, the men's championships would all be they would all be merged. So then you would have those. You'd have so then you'd have the 2 secondary championships, and even that you don't necessarily need to have one of them on the show, and like that when one of the champions could beat them under the giant battle royal. You never know. But let's just put both of them on, right? So that's 5 matches. The women's tag matches, right? That's 6. So then that's 6. So okay. So I do think maybe the champions should be on WrestleMania. So now you have 6 championship matches. That means you have 2 to 3 matches for other, big time rivalries. And I think that's perfect. And guess what? Not every, and you've got enough time within 4 hours to make sure that, they can each one can get the time that is deserved for that sort of thing. If you're just putting, the Intercontinental Champion Sami Zayn in a match against, in a match against either Dragunov that really hasn't had a build that doesn't need 15 minutes. You can do that match in 10 minutes plus interest, right? With interest, you do that match in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, that doesn't need a big time showcase. And sometimes, and if you have something that is, every match doesn't need to be epic, and you do all that. So anyway, I'm saying all of this just to let you know my feelings on the 2-night WrestleMania. So now we're having a 2-night SummerSlam in 2026. Like I said, we don't know if they're going to from 2026 on. We actually, if they're gonna do this or not. We don't even know what some stuff's gonna be at in 2025. Let alone at 2026. So who knows? I would hope that this is just a one-time thing to make up for Minnesota not getting WrestleMania. And hell, you can guess what? You can still give them WrestleMania in 2027. Yeah, give them SummerSlam in 2026. Make the announcement of SummerSlam that WrestleMania is coming back in 2027. WWE's coming back to Minnesota in 2027 for WrestleMania. You can still do that. But I don't want this to be a everyday thing because I just don't think it's needed. Now, I talked about earlier, I talked about really quickly, like certain things. Like, I don't think that WWE needs to do to have all of these premium live events. And what I need to go back and do is I need to go back and I need to go back over things that I would change about WWE. Especially now in this new era. I did it for the old era. I changed it for the new era. Some things will still be the same. Some things would, but I need to redo that. I did a video on that in the past. I try to maybe I try to link it somewhere in this video, like in one of the link cards, so you guys can check it out. But I need to go back and maybe redo that. So that's something to do like that. But one of the things that I talked about is taking away premium live events. Cutting them in half. Instead of doing one every month, cut it from 12, cut it down to 6. Do 6, and I'm not even talking about the shouty shows. I'm just talking about the regular premium live events. Come down to 6, and then you can have each one of those shows could be 4 hours. Each one of those shows could be 4 hours in run length, and that could help. Things like that. And there's just one night for every show, not 2 nights. But like I said, I think what I'm gonna do is in a future episode of That to Shoot, I'm gonna come back to. I'm gonna redo that video and maybe make some changes if I need to or not. But because of this new era and new things, because I had some things about WrestleMania. It seems like WrestleMania has changed and it's not going to be anymore the last week of March or the first week of April. They're gonna have it lower. We're just like in NFL. We're gonna get an 18-game schedule at some point. That might change how you do WrestleMania. So a lot of things need to happen about that. So finally on this 2-night SummerSlam thing, like I've said, it's gonna be interesting. To see how they do this. It's in 2026, a couple years away. But I just hope it's just a one-time thing and it's not going to lead to 2-night SummerSlams. And I hope it doesn't also lead to 2-night other shows as well. We don't need 2-night Survivor Series War Games for the War Games match. We don't need 2-night Royal Rumbles for the 2-night Royal Rumble pay-per-view for the Royal Rumbles. We just don't need it. And we don't need 2-night WrestleManias. But again, I don't think that's going to go away. And at this point, I'll deal with the 2-night WrestleManias. Especially over these last couple of years, where the 2-night WrestleManias main events have been 5 stars. They've ended the night on a great thing. For no other pay-per-view being 2 nights. So I would make that concession easily. So let's talk about NXT this week. Great episode of NXT. We saw the debut of Ethan Page, former AEW star, former TNA star, debuting on NXT as the man who took out Noam Dar, and that earlier that night, Oro Minsu and took out Trick Williams in the main event. Also took out Last Legend in sort of a way as well. So Ethan Page is now in NXT. That was great. Some really good action as well. We found out the members of the 6-woman North American ladder match. Sexy Red, who is apparently a rapper. She's got a face tattoo and she twerks and everything like that. Booker T was on one. He was on one the entire show. Now, I had my headphones on listening to other things, so I wasn't listening, but when I went back and saw stuff on TikTok or saw stuff on Twitter, you could tell Booker T was just on one all night long. So it was amazing. But Sexy Red, she's a star. I guess she's a wrestling fan. And I guess she goes way back to the days of the 90s with Shawn Michaels and anything like that. Her and Shawn Michaels hung out, during the show, after the show, and everything like that. And there was Shawn Michaels was trending for about 32 hours, because of not only what he was doing for NXT, but hanging out with Sexy Red. So it was absolutely insane. But I think the biggest thing to come from NXT was Roxanne Perez's challenger for her NXT Women's Championship at NXT Battleground was TNA Knockout Champion Jordynne Grace. Now, this is the second time Jordynne Grace has made her appearance in WWE. While she has been the TNA Knockout Champion, she was a part of the Royal Rumble back in January, and now here she is going to be on Battleground. She was also NXT this Thursday. She's going to be NXT next Thursday. She's going to wrestle some English girl. I can't remember her name, Stevie Turner or something like that. As she was complaining about not being on the show or anything like that, or inside or in a part of the combine or something like that. So she's going to wrestle Jordynne Grace this Tuesday on NXT, and then Jordynne Grace will face Roxanne Perez June 9th at NXT Battleground. Now, this has led to many other things. There was a whole bunch of stuff, on Twitter, TNA wrestlers maybe talking about doing matches with, WWE wrestlers or NXT wrestlers and vice versa. And there's a lot of conversation about it. Fans went crazy. I even, I super chatted into the Fightful NXT post show where I said, who wants to see Joe Hendry versus Tony D'Angelo? Because you got to believe in Joe Hendry. So it's so there's a lot of things that come out, and it has come out that this thing is doesn't look like it's going to be just a one-time thing. This and this partnership between TNA and WWE could end up for a long time. It could be going on for a long time. So that means that we might see more TNA wrestlers on WWE programming. We might see a lot more WWE wrestlers on TNA programming. So this is good. This is good. Some people might say, well, why would WWE do this? Why would TNA do this? Well, we know why TNA would do this. TNA is not the TNA that was, the fresh new thing, in the early 2000s, right? In early to mid to even late 2000s, when they were talking about trying to be, the alternative for WWE, as WWE had the monopoly on wrestling for quite a while. So they were trying to give them an alternative, and they were trying to be competition with WWE, and that's just not the case. So after all this time now, why would so now TNA is taking a lot of hits and things like this. They've had a lot of name changes, a lot of hits, and so now, even the most part of the fact that I don't watch the program. I don't keep up with it. Every now and then I might see something on Twitter, and I'll say that the thing recently has got me thinking about talking about TNA is the Joe Hendry stuff, as I just mentioned. I believe in Joe Hendry. That's been on TikTok and everywhere. So, and it's so it was interesting. So this is, I think, people who have been maybe left TNA and want to say, well, it's just over here. TNA is just over here. But now you've got you know, TNA doing this on WWE program, and maybe some, you know, you get the right people on the WWE program, and it says, you know what? I want to see more of her. I want to see more of him. Where can I find them? Maybe I will go ahead and watch TNA tonight. Maybe I will go ahead and I'll order, you know, Slammiversary or something like that to watch TNA. That may happen is because they'll be working with WWE. So you know that's what TNA does. But why would WWE do? Why would WWE work with TNA? Well, I think for several reasons. I think one, they've got a lot of TNA wrestlers, in particular AJ Styles. You know, who they could use a lot of things. Like last night on SmackDown, one of the pictures from AJ Styles, you know, that they had on there when they were talking about is he going to retire, was from TNA. It was a picture of him, I believe. His music, they could use his music. They could use stuff from, you know, things like that. And listen, they've, you know, you can kind of say they worked with TNA in the past. They wanted to have, you know, when they inducted the Horsemen, Ric Flair was in TNA at the time, so they made a deal with TNA that Ric Flair could go to the WWE Hall of Fame while he was working at TNA at that time to be a part of that Horseman. And then Christian, who was in WWE at that time, could do like the 200th episode of TNA or whatever it was. He could go back to TNA then. Something like that. And then, you know, a couple of years ago in 2022, Mickie James, they mentioned that not only was she in TNA after being fired, you know, during that, you know, pandemic or 2021 thing, you know, after being fired from WWE, and not just only being fired, but absolutely just almost being treated so badly where her clothes were sent to her in a plastic bag. I mean, it was just amazing. But then they brought her back, and she was a TNA Knockout champion, and they brought her back for the Royal Rumble in 2022, where she didn't come out to like the knockoff, hey, Mickey, you so fine. Didn't knock off that one. She came out to hardcore country. So there was some stuff that has been happening. They've been and things like that. Like when you go on the network and you talk about AJ Styles, or when Kurt Angle came back, you talk about Kurt Angle. They were using some photos and some from things like that, you know, from Impact Wrestling and TNA at the time, and they were giving them credit for it, and they were mentioning it as well on some of their shows on the 3 counts or whatever. I think that's even they even did one of the 3 counts. It was the other people who had been in TNA, and they were talking about it, which was kind of amazing. And now with Cody Rhodes, who got a brief stop in TNA, they can do that. If Matt and Jeff Hardy ever go back to WWE, you know, after now being away from AEW, they can talk about their time in TNA. I mean, and they did for a little bit, you know, in the bit as well. So it was just what it was. But now it seems like it's now almost think. And I know there might be some cynics who might say, well, they're doing this because AEW is getting ready to start their Forbidden Door build. So they want to do their quote unquote Forbidden Door with TNA to counteract that. Maybe. I'm not gonna say they aren't doing it. Maybe. And I also might be saying that they are doing this to build up TNA. Because as right now, it does seem that AEW is on a downslope. And even though MJF has come back and MJF may right the ship, they could be on a more of a downslope with some of the fans. So this may be the time to kind of bring up TNA and have them battle with AEW as being the second promotion in the land. Again, that's a way for our conspiracy theory. That's the tinfoil stuff. I don't even think that. I just think in this new era with Triple H leading the way and Nick Khan and all those folks, I just think they just say, we are WWE. We're the greatest wrestling promotion in the world going. We've been the greatest wrestling promotion for the last several decades. Whether we've had competition or not. There's no reason for us to be looking at TNA or looking at MLW or looking at NWA as competition does not talk about them. We should be looking at them as, hey, this is a way to freshen up some stuff as well, right? Because yeah, maybe maybe seeing so and so versus so and so for the 7th time isn't maybe it isn't great, but if you can see Bianca Belair, instead of seeing Bianca Belair versus Tiffany Stratton for the 5th time in 2 months, Bianca Belair can take on Jordan Grace or whoever else is in TNA. That might be good, right? You don't need to do the NXT, especially if you're not going to have them, be on a call up or anything like that. So that's good. That gives more weight as the light outside starts to change. This happens, This seems to happen. Like I've got the ring light, I've got the room light, but as it starts to get lighter, when I do these videos in the daytime, as it starts to get lighter, and the way I have everything set up, as it gets lighter and the more light from the sun starts to creep in, it seemingly darkens me and the thing in this picture, so you can barely see me. So I'll change my view to see when I get to the final topic, but because I'm trying to wrap this up right now. I'm talking about WWE. I just want to let you guys know that. So yeah, I think this is good, and I think this is a new era. I think it's fun, and I don't see anything wrong with this. Now, for those who are saying, well, why can't WWE do this with AEW? Why can't AEW do this with WWE? And listen, I think because Tony Khan is a fucking mark, and he's a fucking dick. And Tony Khan has said, and again mentioning Jim Cornette, I don't think he was talking out of school. He talked about on one of his podcasts a week or so ago. He talked about that when he talked about Tony Khan, because Tony Khan went to Jim Cornette. He was always a fan of Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express and everything Jim Cornette had did. And so apparently he went to Jim Cornette, made him sign an NDA, but he told him about what he was thinking about doing with AEW, probably to try to get Jim to join his crew. But Jim wasn't going to do it because the Young Bucks and Omega, he's got total problems with them, so he wasn't going to even go there. And probably other reasons as well. But he let something slip the other week when he said that Tony was telling him that he was going to have this promotion and he was going to take down the evil empire of WWE and all of that jazz. And I think that's the reason why, because I think Tony Khan thought he could create this AEW wrestling. And admittedly, there had been some WWE fatigue throughout the 2010s, and many people thought the product was not good. I disagreed with it. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect, but I thought it was good. I still thought it was entertaining. I thought it was good. Yada thing like that. But to have this new, come around, he thought that he could maybe take away and take down the evil empire of WWE and put them out of business. And I think WWE figured that out. Now, if Tony Khan just wanted to create AEW as just another regular organization, just create another WWE, then that would have been fine. But think about it. On one of the first shows of AEW Dynamite, Chris Jericho, a WWE guy, should have been a WWE, maybe should have been a WWE lifer. I don't know, things like that. He wasn't going to be a WWE lifer because He was in WCW first, but we consider him to be a WWE guy. Now that's where he became the star that he was. He talked about Jack Swagger, and people started chanting who Jake Hager. And the fans are chanting, "We the people, we the people." And Chris Jericho goes, "We the people" was bad creative. Was it really bad creative? And you get people on AEW chanting "We the people." Was it really bad creative? So they were already taking shots at WWE, and I really just think that they've taken shots that have been unnecessary and just total thing. And I think as a phrase that my grandmother once would say, they tore their draws to WWE. I really did, because if AEW would have just kept to themselves and just wouldn't have thought about WWE, and WWE got a little bit to blame for that as well, because they some reason saw AEW and said, even though I really think they saw, and maybe this is like Vince, and when Vince was crazy, they they saw AEW come on. So AEW had a TV deal, and they said, "Well, listen, we can't be the only we can only be the only wrestling on cable television. So let's show them what we do. Let's put NXT on against them." Which kind of legitimized AEW, and then you had a kind of a Wednesday Night War, which is one thing they should have never done that. They should have never put it on AEW on the put NXT up against AEW as a Wednesday Night War, because for the most part, I think as that during that time that they were going head to head, AEW won every week but two, and the last one they won, the WWE won, was the night Rhea Ripley beat Shayna Baszler for the NXT Championship. So there was a lot of things there that just was not, WWE did wrong, and I think that's because Vince can take it, yada yada yada. But they did some things wrong as well. And I really think the final thing was at the draft when Tony Khan, for some dumbass reason, goes on NFL Network and makes first of all, a fucking horrible simile to begin with, as he calls AEW Pepsi, but instead of calling like WWE like Tab or something like this, ran into another drink, lesser drink than Pepsi. He calls them the Harvey Weinstein of wrestling. And at this point, Tony Khan is just making his bed in line. He's trying to, he knows that his ship is sinking. And he's trying to do everything in his word to keep it afloat. And maybe at some point he may keep it afloat. I'm going to stick with what I said, several years ago when AEW started and it first started. I had predicted that AEW was going to have some fun. They were going to have a run, but in the long run, they were going to end up like TNA, where they were going to end up being on Destination America or be up on the TV Guide channel and being a butt of many jokes. And even though we're going on 5 years, right? We're probably 5 years, 5 or 6 years of them being on television, which is kudos to them, pretty good. But it's still starting to, the sink is still starting to shift. And again, we'll see if MJF can help right it. But I don't think there's any chance at this point of a WWE AEW working relationship at all. I don't think Triple H and Nick Khan wants to legitimize AEW in any way at this point. I don't think Tony Khan has the humility to say to himself, well, WWE is a better company, a better product, they've been around the longest. This would be good for my company to maybe get me back on the right ship. I'm not competition of WWE. I'm not. I gotta stop saying I'm not competition with WWE. I'm just another regular organization, wrestling organization that is probably needed. It's just another place for workers to work. You know, we've got people with contracts coming up in WWE. Chad Gable, Natalia. Yesterday was announced that Ricochet has a contract coming up in 2 weeks. Ricochet would be good for AEW, in my opinion. He's probably a better AEW guy than he's a WWE guy. He would be good there. And then it is another place for a Ricochet to work. But I don't think it's ever going to happen. Unfortunately, for those who want it to happen, I think at this point in time, it won't. Maybe in 5 years, when things have changed, maybe Tony Khan, they say, it gets older, gets a little more humility, you know, maybe it will happen. Hell, we said for years, CM Punk is never going to go back to WWE, and when you know who won the pony, CM Punk is back at WWE. So, you never know. All right, I tried the other way, another angle. It just didn't work, so hey, but guess what? For something like this isn't a reaction video or try not to laugh or something like that. Where you need to see my facial expression, excuse me. This is just, you know, you can listen to this, so you don't need to be really looking at me. So finally, we're going to talk about Becky Lynch. I believe it's actually today. Her contract is up, and let me quickly do this really quick. Check Twitter, and I don't know I don't know why it's Twitter is not working correctly on this desktop. So let me quickly check my phone. Just see this is okay. As I quickly check the phone. I don't see any type of Becky Lynch trending, because I believe if she had re-signed or anything like that, she would probably be trending in some sort of fashion. She is not. Quickly go through, is there anything? Yeah, as I'm looking quickly through my timeline, I ain't seeing nothing. I ain't seeing nothing about Becky Lynch or anything like that. So I believe today is Becky Lynch's day. Her contract is up today, actually. So there's a lot of talk about Becky Lynch. What has happened? You know, was Monday night's match against Liv Morgan Becky Lynch's last match in WWE? Would she show up in AEW to be with her 4 horsewomen mate, Mercedes Moné, or Rebecca Quinn, or Rebecca Lopez, or whatever her real name is now? If she show up there to be with, or she gonna be some other name, Rebecca something else? Hell, the WWE let go of the trademark of Big Time Beck. So if she got the money where she can go trademark that herself and be Big Time Becks over there. So is she going to be Big Time Becks in AEW? Or is this something else? Is this, you know, something else? Is this going to be something where she's just taking time off Is this something where she's just waiting for the right offer, for WWE to make her the right offer? You know, Sean Ross Sapp has claimed that there's a good chance that whenever Becky Lynch signs, with whoever she signs, she's going to be the highest paid woman in wrestling history. So what's happening here? First off, let's go into if this was Becky Lynch's last WWE match, whether she's gonna go somewhere to AEW or whether she's just decided to just hang him up, which I don't think it is. But just in case she has, if that was her last match, what do I think about Becky Lynch in her career? So long-time viewers of this show know that I have had a kind of a love-hate relationship with Becky Lynch. Especially the man version of Becky Lynch, or at least the first version of the man Becky Lynch. The first version of the man Becky Lynch, I think was a total act. It was a total farce. You know, she did a movie with Shawn Michaels where she was the bad guy, and she was talking to Shawn Michaels. She wanted to know, like, when she goes back to WWE, what she should be, and Shawn Michaels said, "Act like you're a star." And so I think she went back to WWE, and they tried to go down the heel turn route, which again I will forever say that it was just the wrong time. They should have known that at that time where Tuesdays was on, you know, SmackDown was on Tuesdays, you know, and so then you had and SummerSlam was starting to become just like WrestleMania, where in the night after SummerSlam on Monday Night Raw was going to be kind of hectic and crazy, and Tuesday was going to be like that as well, because it was people, you know, staying up, and they were going to make weird chants. They were going to play with beach balls and yada yada yada. And they went up there and they had Becky Lynch do a heel promo where everybody was cheering her. And that wasn't, I still think that they should have known, but they should have had the foresight to see that wasn't what happened. They should have waited a week to where they could have had people, you know, booing Becky. And they tried for a few months, but then after some point they just said, fine, they're gonna cheer Becky Lynch. They're gonna cheer Becky Lynch, and they, you know, especially after the thing with Nia Jax, and she broke her nose and she was standing up there. She you know, she had a cool look about her, and she was, you know, cool aura, as the kids are saying, aura about her so much that it was almost like, well, you can't, you know, you can't, you know, you can't have her be a heel. She's got to be a baby face. So, and then, you know, of course, she couldn't do the match with Ronda at Survivor Series. The two, when they were doing the Raw versus SmackDown, Ronda was Women's Champion, Becky Lynch was SmackDown Champion. So they had Charlotte fill in, and then Charlotte turned heel. And then afterwards, you know, because they, you know, things like that. But I just always, you know, but I just always saw the man. Once they went and said, okay, she's not going to be a good guy, I just always saw the man character, that first iteration, as someone unlikable. Because she was always saying, I smacked the head off the dope, and I do this, and it wasn't genuine. It wasn't at all likable, at least to me. I just didn't like it, and I was. And by the time she left to go have a baby, I was ready. I was ready for her to go. And then when she came back, and she was gonna be a heel, and she'd be big time Bex, it was enjoyable. And I thought this what could have been when they originally tried to turn her heel, and they kind of showed, and I thought she did great work. She did great character work. She did everything like that. And then when she turned face at SummerSlam 2022, I was kind of hoping, you know, that she would keep that big time Bex character, but she went right back into the man, gonna be in the man, and I was kind of worried about it. But the second character of the man was it was kind of different because she was a different person. She was not somebody trying to be a star, to be a major player. She was now a major player, and she was also now a mother. So so the way she talked, the way she carried herself was much better. This last run of her being a man was much more enjoyable than the first one to me, in my opinion. Uh, so having all that, but I will say this. But my favorite iteration of Becky Lynch was the last kick when she first got brought up to WWE, and she was there. She would run down the ring and she would do all those things, and she had the glasses, and she would do the puns, everything like that. Because I think that's who Becky Lynch is. She's the girl who makes all of the funny puns. She's the joyful, gleeful person, things like that. And I think that's her true self. And I think that's the person I enjoyed the most. Now, having said all of this, um, I think you cannot deny her ability to connect with this audience and to be a true superstar of this, of this era. And I think she's when it comes to the horsewomen, there's some things on there about Becky Lynch. She's like the greatest women wrestler of all time, and she's one of the best of horsewomen. And they said that Mercedes said that as well. Mercedes is definitely not. I think Sasha Banks is, but I give Sasha Banks credit. Things like that. I think when it comes down to the in ring for work and in ring performance, I actually think maybe for the four horsewomen, I actually think maybe Becky Lynch may be fourth. I think you might have to go Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley, and then Becky Lynch. You have to do that. But as for what the other parts that goes into being the star, I think Becky Lynch is again behind Charlotte. I think Charlotte, she's the best woman wrestler of all time, and I think that's just. I think anybody who says otherwise, I think has a bias against her because maybe they thought Charlotte was over pushed or she was not pushed. No, no, because her father was the Flair, so she was a Flair, yada yada yada, anything like that. I think there's something there to that. But I think this should almost be like the Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan type of argument where, yeah, Charlotte's the best woman wrestler of all time. That's no, no. Everybody else is fighting for number two. Anyway, but I really have, like I said, I really have come to enjoy this last iteration of Becky Lynch, and um, it is sad to see again if she goes up to AEW or if it is sad to see her leave WWE. Now let's talk about that. What happens? What is she? Why did she leave WWE? What's happening here? And so here's the thing, right? I think there are several things going on here, right? One, we talked about the retirement thing, right? Maybe she's just tired. She spent so much to try to get to where she is. She got where she is. She helped change the WWE and how they look at women's wrestling. Yeah, that she's like, okay, I've done what I wanted to do. I don't need to do this anymore. At least anything like that. So I can go. I can go right off into the sunset and be happy. If that happened, then that's fun. That's fine. That's good as well. I don't think that's the case though. I think she's got more to give. Right? Is this a hiatus? She's been on. Ever since she's come back in 2021, she's been on the road for almost 3 years. She is a mother. Does she want to spend time? With more with her child. Child is right around. She's getting ready to be 4, maybe I think. Later on in the year. Um, you know, her husband Seth Rollins is on the shelf with a knee injury. Maybe she wants to take care of her husband. and she's got that right as well to do all of that. So that's fine. We talked about maybe it's the money issue. Does she want to be thing, and she's just waiting on WWE to make her the offer that she can't refuse. That could be it as well. Would she, is she tired of WWE? Does she want to go and spread her wings somewhere else to AEW or anywhere else? That could be the case as well. Although I personally think again, I don't think we're gonna see her pop up in AEW. But then again, I didn't think we would see Edge pop up in AEW. I didn't think we would see Mark Henry or Christian or Big Show or people who were WWE guys pop up in AEW. So that's that, right? But who knows? So we'll see what that is. But again, to go back to what something Sean Ross Sapp said on one of the Fightful things, Becky Lynch can do whatever she wants to do, and whatever she wants to do, she has earned that right. And whether we like it or not, it's not the case. It's what she wants to do. I mean, personally, what do you think? What do I think is going to happen? I think Becky Lynch is going to take time off. And I think that she's going to take time off, and I think we will hear something later this summer about her re-signing with the WWE. And then I think sometime in the fall, maybe late in the fall, we're going to hear. We're gonna be watching Monday Night Raw, and we're gonna hear that, music from Becky Lynch, and we're gonna be excited to see her and things like that. And she's going to be back on television screens, and that's gonna be fun. There's even some stuff talked about as well. Some people were reporting that this is a non-thing. She at some point will re-sign with the WWE, and when they come back, they're gonna have her be going into a feud with Lyra, at the beginning of next year that will lead to her and Lyra at WrestleMania. Fine. That's fine as well. But, so there's our thing. But no, let's make this clear. No one knows. Everybody has a thought. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has what they want to see happen with Becky Lynch. Nobody knows but Becky Lynch and maybe Seth Rollins. And that's totally fine. And I don't think there's nothing more else to say about that. But that's it. All right, y'all. That is it for this episode of That's a Shoot. Again, next couple of episodes of That's a Shoot are going to be predictions episodes from NXT Battleground and Clash at the Castle. Make sure you click the notification bell so that you can get those. You can be notified when I do put up those episodes of That's a Shoot, and when I do the reactions to NXT Battleground and Clash at the Castle right after the ending of the show. You can talk about the show, what went down, the reactions to that. Thank you guys. Well, actually, before I do that, post your comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. Let me know what you feel about Jey Uso. Let me know how you feel about a 2-night SummerSlam. Let me know what you feel about the working relationship between WWE and TNA. And of course, let me know what you think about Becky Lynch. If you have any thank yous, if you have anything that you want to say about Becky Lynch and her time in WWE and what her future might be, please post in the comment section down below. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, or in this case, maybe listening, as you can't even really see me. And I'm not even that dark skinned. I'm actually kind of maybe like, more of a, I'm not light skinned, but I'm a lighter black guy. As always, guys, make sure that you will be good to each other. Be careful out there. and I am out.